Hello, everyone, and welcome to InvenTank, a weekly program to help inventors have fun learning about inventing and licensing. I'm your host, Lisa Lloyd, and today I'm running a little experiment. Normally, I have a guest host on with me each week to help answer all your questions live. But this week, I've invited my guests from you, the audience, to join me, and 3 inventors have volunteered to help workshop their sell sheets in real time, right here live, so that everyone can learn together and hopefully we have a lot of fun along the way. Now, this could go really well or go completely sideways and blow up for me. I have no idea. This is an experiment. And if you're going to be an inventor and you're afraid of failing, then you're probably in the wrong business. So I'm experimenting. I hope that you find some wonderful, meaningful value out of the program today and have a little fun and get entertained along the way. And if this does work, great, we'll do it some more in the future. And if not, don't worry. We still plan on hosting our program with some wonderful, in fact, I have some pretty surprising and exciting guests coming up in the near future. So like I said, today I have 3 very brave inventors who have agreed to do this with me. And I want you all to respect the fact that this is a little scary and to help me celebrate their bravery by either clapping or snapping or celebrate or give me a thumbs up for their courage today in the chat. Now, before we get started with them, I just want to start by reviewing what a sell sheet is and remind our listeners and our audience that this is live. And so currently you're watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. You can drop your questions in the comments below and I will take them on in the order in which they are received. So at any time, feel free to ask any question. And maybe it's not even sell sheet related, which is the subject of today's program, but it doesn't have to be. I'm happy to help you with anything that I can along the way. So drop those questions in. And with that, I'm just going to share my screen with you and review quickly what matters most in a sell sheet, because this is the subject of each of our guests today. And we want to make sure that, or I want to make sure that you understand the method to my madness. And so this is the formula here. And basically, you need to remember that when you're submitting a product to a company for license, this is your first pass at getting in front of them. So the sell sheet needs to be very short, to the point, concise, and demonstrate a highly meaningful benefit or two that is illustrated in the form of a value proposition with some pictures and some bullets and possibly even a video demonstration that help tell the story in a way very quickly that allows the prospective person at the company to make a good business decision about whether this is worth spending more time on. A sell sheet's job is not to license your product for you. That would be like selling a car from a brochure. You know, people need to test drive it. It's a big decision. It's a very expensive decision. And so they need to understand it well enough to see if it's even worth bringing back to their team to vet further. And that being the goal, these are the 7 steps that I outline in every one of my sell sheets. So the title really isn't as important. I get asked all the time, you know, should I trademark my title, for example? And trademarks aren't absolutely necessary because, pardon me, I have a dry mouth. Companies, if you file a trademark, it's very unlikely that a company will ever pay you. I have never heard of it. It doesn't mean it wouldn't happen. In fact, if I say it'll never happen, someone will prove me wrong. I've learned that over the years. So instead, I say it's likely not to happen because there's no intrinsic value in the name of the product. If they do use it, and they may, then they just wouldn't pay you for it. And so you don't need to spend a lot of time and money on this, but usually a descriptive title can be helpful. Then your tagline, and this is very important, which clearly and succinctly summarizes your product's value proposition, is the next step in totally grabbing. They're going to look at the pictures and read this and know whether or not they have any interest very quickly in spending any more time on it. So this is important to convey in a short message what the problem is, why it's a pain in the butt, and why your solution is going to be better, and then showing them the images to demonstrate how it does that job. Then you'll see the video to help reinforce that. So perhaps it's a demonstration video, or maybe like step 1, step 2, step 3 for how to assemble and then how to use. It could be a 3D animation video where there's a cutaway in the part itself, and it cuts open and shows you the inside to give someone a reason to believe the secret ingredient, the magic behind the product is that sort of thing. Maybe that's where your intellectual property is. So a cutaway video to show what's inside of it. Essentially, this reinforces not only that it gets the job done, but that it is believable. There's a real reason to believe that it is manufacturable at a cost-effective method, and that it's fun, or it delivers on that benefit promise. And then you have your fully your final benefit, or your final bullets, which are any additional secondary, tertiary, whatever benefits that are above and beyond that primary benefit or two that you invented the solution for. So any additional benefits that might be meaningful can go here. You'll see examples of all of this. So if you're trying to take notes, don't panic. This will all make a lot more sense as we go through today's program. And if you have anything that is meaningful to your audience, remember, this is for a company that you're licensing to. And so what matters to them that goes above and beyond the customer that you're hopefully going to sell it to. So far, we've just demonstrated the problem for the customer and how you're going to solve it better. And hopefully now I believe that there's a big audience with that pain that I can sell to. Now I need to know what's the state of the union. Do you have a prototype? Do you have working models? Do you have any engineering drawings, CAD files? Is there an estimated cost of goods, which some companies may be able to look at it and know very quickly just because it's simple enough. But if there's anything questionable about it and you have the answer to that question with regard to the cost of goods, listing that can be very helpful in moving the person forward. And then, of course, if it's patent pending or issued, you could put your patent number here. And then the final section here is your call to action and contact information. So in this case, now available for license, I find it's interesting how often I see a sell sheet where there is no call to action. And the number one objection, or the number one challenge that inventor has, or those inventors have, is getting in front of a company and either not getting ghosted, or the first question they get from the company is, looks interesting, how much is it? Because they think you're selling it to them. Or what's, how many do I have? What's the minimum opening order? That sort of thing, because they may assume, depending on who you're talking to, that you're actually offering it for sale and not for license. So make sure your call to action, it's really simple. It's just listed now available for license. Your contact info, you can include your social handles if you think that will help you build credibility. Let's say you're a contractor, a commercial contractor, and you've been doing this for 20 years. That lends credibility. If you've invented a contractor's tool and they go to your LinkedIn and they see that, that credibility demonstrates, obviously, certainly weights the value of your opinion on whether this is a good idea or not. And you can always include your copyright information at the bottom. So it would be copyright circle, the circle C, which you don't have to pay for. And that's a whole nother webinar, but just do this with the year and then either your name or the company name, if you do have a company instead that owns this intellectual property, the copyright. So that's just a little bit extra insulation for you when you're submitting it to companies, that there's intellectual property on the artwork in addition to, obviously, the product itself. Keep them as far away from that as possible. So that should give you a pretty quick overview of the expectation and what the flow of the model that we're going to go through here. Now let's take a look at some of these products. So let's see here. I'm inviting Tomas to join me. Hello, Tomas.
Hello.
Thank you so much. Tomas and Marie, thank you for submitting this in advance. And I know this is a little scary, so I hope that you're cool with just talk to me. Forget about anybody else being out there. Just talk to me. And
yeah, sure.
Before we get into it, and I know that there's some people that are only listening to us today. Fortunately, we have video today, but some people may only be listening on our podcast in the future. So walk me through your sell sheet, kind of, if you're comfortable doing it as a pitch, like I were a company. If not, that's fine. Just walk me through it and tell me what you've invented here and what you want.
Okay. Actually, if I want to start from the problem, when people have a surgery in the hospitals or bone fracture or so on in the hospital, but especially after long hospitalization or surgeries, uh, they are for 1 or 2 days are in rehabilitation process, and they should or they have to walk in order to um prevent blood clot or to prevent stroke and so on. Uh, so for that purpose, usually nurses help them with use of some walking frames, help them to walk actively. It's sometimes hard for them. Maybe they had the surgery in upper bodies or so on, and they can't talk, they can't walk easily. So yes, this this seat walker that I have designed that help them with that purpose. So the
Okay.
patients, yes, so the patients can sit on it and walk with it. As actually they can walk, but they sit actually on that. So the walking process is active and more easier for the patient, and they can walk more. So the rehabilitation process is going to be faster and easier. It's a great help for physiotherapists and nurses as they help them, and there is a high rate of injuries in physiotherapists as well for that. And they can also use it in the other purpose in the home or for going out when they are in the rehabilitation process. This is three main benefits of this product.
Okay. Are you a doctor, Tomas?
No, I'm a product designer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am going to switch to this screen so that you can see. I hope everybody heard that okay. I am going to switch to the screen so we can actually take some notes as we're talking. So let me make sure I understand you right. First of all, the seat walker is intended for people who need to be able to walk and sit very quickly because they need to walk more, but they can't walk as much. So being able to sit quickly is the real advantage here.
Actually, this is for the patients in the hospitals or in rehabilitation clinic, and patients for when they have surgery or they have long hospitalization, they have to walk actively in order to prevent blood clot into their bodies. So
Right, I understand that.
it's a medical device used for walking.
Okay, so there are plenty of walkers out there that also are walkers and have seats. Tell me why you invented one that is made this way, more like a trike, as opposed to the others that are currently available to solve the same problem.
Sure. Actually, the walkers that usual walkers that has the seat on that, they are just for sitting. They can't be used as a walker and maybe seater at the same time. But simultaneously, you can use this walker and sit on that while you are walking. So it's reduce your weight and reduce the pressure on your leg, and you can walk with it more easier. And it's very helpful for patients that they don't have enough power to use normal walker to walk, as it's quite common in hospitals.
Okay, so it helps relieve the weight. I'm looking for the right words. It helps to relieve the weight for the patient while getting back on their feet. Would that be correct?
Yeah, could be.
You're going to all find out how bad my spelling is. IEVE. Weight while getting, oops. back on your feet. So I would say that is a value proposition. That under your seat walker, where you see that up here, your title, walk while sitting is a little confusing for someone. It's easy for you because you're in the space, you already know what the product is, but for someone looking at this for the first time, I don't understand that. And so if you're showing this to me, I want to know very quickly, it's how do you walk while sitting? That doesn't make sense, but helps relieve weight while getting back on your feet. Makes sense, right? And you might need to finesse that a little bit more, but can you see how that little tiny change can make a pretty big difference for someone who's looking at this for the very first time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Quite
Awesome.
small, really.
Awesome. Okay, so you've got your title like we talked about. You've got your value proposition now, and I would finesse that a little bit more, give that some thought, but I hope that helps you understand a little bit better the direction to go, or maybe if you like it, use it. With regard to your bullets here, the company that you're going to be pitching to, now remember folks, we're talking about sending a sell sheet to a company for licensing. So my question would be the language you're using, the physiotherapist to support more securely, for example. Would the people that you're pitching this to at the company understand what that means?
Actually,
See, a doctor would, if I talked to a doctor and showed this, right, they'd get it. But we want to make sure we're using the right language for this specific audience. So if I'm pitching a chief innovation officer at a commercial healthcare type product company, or it could be the head of marketing, are they well versed enough in the business that they would know what that means?
maybe yes, maybe no.
So that's and isn't that the truth? Sometimes we're not sure. So
Yeah.
better to err on that side of safe than sorry. I would say make sure that that anybody, even someone who doesn't have domain expertise, will understand exactly what the product does and what that value is for the consumer. And then this stuff, the domain language, the vernacular can be used in your conversation when you actually talk to them later, unless you know for sure they'll understand it. And so you may end up having two sheets. You may have two different sell sheets, one for when you're talking to a VP of marketing, and one for when you're talking to R&D, and one for when you're talking to, in this case, if you're talking to medical practitioners, it would change just a little bit. The story is still the same. It just, the meaningfulness behind your story changes based on what's most meaningful to each of those people. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, great. So for your bullets, I'd like to see something more along the lines of, actually, before we get to bullets, let's go back to your picture. I don't know what this box is.
Actually, this is the basket. Something that, for example, maybe if you want to use it as an outdoor product, you can put your stuff into it, and or maybe in hospital something you can put it into it. It's just basket.
Okay, awesome. So in part of my notes that I made for you today, I think having at least two images, one with it by itself, and another way this helps drive home that value proposition that we just explained, the fact that someone just looking at this doesn't necessarily know how it works, would be to have the standalone, and this is going to be true for most of those within listening ears right now, the standalone product, so I know exactly what it is that I'm licensing, as well as showing me in use in the best use case scenario. So if it's at a hospital and someone's got an IV and they're walking, or if it's out after physical therapy or during physical therapy, or if it's at the grocery store, and if all three of those are equally meaningful, then you could have 3 small boxes with someone using them in those environments to demonstrate for your prospect the massive number of use cases there are, which of course increases your potential sales for them. Does that make sense?
Yes, but since I put them into my video, presentation. So I guess maybe this is
And
maybe nicer.
yeah, so, and that's reasonable to think that your video will do it, but once again, you're counting on me to click on that. And if you haven't sold me on this, I'm not giving you another second to click on something and go watch a video. The video should reinforce what I learn here.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Yes.
If you're just sending a video and no sell sheet, then your video needs to do this job for you. But in this case, the sell sheet is your first line of touch point with the company. And if you're not sending it ahead and you're having a Zoom call, then when you have the conversation with them, obviously you have the ability to say, now let me show you this in action, because you're controlling the agenda of that call or that meeting. If you're meeting with them in person at a trade show or at their office, then you can control that. But if you're sending it ahead, you run the risk of them just getting here and stopping because out of their ignorance, not out of their educated decision. And I'm okay with no's all day long and twice on Sunday, as long as they're educated decisions and you educate me in the process, because that makes me a better inventor and it makes me better for pitching to the next person. So if it comes back to me through that learning from my sell sheet and from that pitch that this won't work and here's why, and I'm an expert telling you this, then you can make an educated decision to walk away or to improve the product, to fix the problem that they're telling you that you couldn't have known before you got started. Or maybe hit the pause button. Maybe it's just not time. You get that education out of it. So those calls are really important. We use these to get those calls, but the video comes after if you have to send this ahead. Make sense?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So that takes you through your title, your value proposition, some images to really help drive home for me what it is and how it's used, why it's better. And then you need to deliver, again, in that value proposition, you might want to, underneath this statement here, say something that explains in more detail. So say your value proposition is helps to relieve weight while getting back on your feet. And then you would have a paragraph here, or a few sentences that explains, studies show there's more falls, blah, blah, blah. Now people can walk without a harness or whatever the alternatives are. Now they don't need a harness. They don't need a chair to have to turn around on. They can literally sustain their weight and get back on their feet progressively in a safe manner.
Yes, actually,
Too much. I'm sorry. Your connection is kind of going in and out there. I don't have a lot of time to deal with questions regarding the sell sheet right now, just because I did promise 3 people and maybe that was an overstep on my part. So I apologize, but we can follow up on another coaching call if you'd like after this. For now, I hope that you understand. You're frozen up. I'll just keep going. So your bullets now instead are going to be really all about your studies, statistics, data that supports why this is so important and so needed. It would include, if you have a prototype, it looks like you do, but I don't know, maybe this is just a 3D prototype. So if there's a prototype available, or if there's CAD files available, as we talked about, and anything else that would be relevant. Oh, good, you're back. And anything else that would be relevant to the company at this point, in addition to any extra benefits. And don't forget, you can, in your images up here, you can use little call out boxes to explain. So say someone was standing on the bike over the seat in one picture and sitting in the other, or halfway, or maybe there's 3 pictures, fully sitting, halfway sitting, and then completely standing, and the value of each something. But you could have language that is around just a few words, each of those boxes, that explains them. So then you don't need it in these bullets down here, and you can reserve the space for your bullets instead to be any additional one-off benefits, as well as any additional relevant content for your prospect. And of course, don't forget at the bottom here to include your contact information and your call to action with now available for license, and your copyright. All right.
Sorry, may I ask a question here regarding some features of the product?
So I tell you what, let's do Yeah, sure. I'm making this up as we go along. Let's do that. Just give me, we'll do a couple minutes on question with you, and then we're going to do some more questions at the end. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Actually, for the basket, for example, it comes to my mind. For example, this is not the main feature of that product. Is that okay to mention something about the basket? For example, this is the foldable basket that is very light basket. Is it good to bring it here or no? Just because it was a question for you and for Mark as well. So
you can do that with just a little call out, a box, foldable or collapsible basket. If the entire thing folds up and stores, then I would certainly want an image of that. Show me how that works. Don't do everything that I'm saying. Just make sure that you're using the various options that I am laying out for you to effectively communicate to that prospective company what it is, how it's better than the competition, and so why those meaningful benefits matter to me. And so it might be showing it open. It might be showing it both open and closed. You'll see an example of that, in fact, from some other things that we're going to look at today. So it'll make more sense. But the images, the video, your value proposition are what tell me all of that at a mile high view. And if you want to get more granular than that, you can do that either in your video or in the conversation itself. I just need to know enough about the overarching concept here to make a decision that there's merit and it's worth us investigating further. Make sense?
Okay. Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so thank you and congratulations. Good job. I mean, come on. I don't know if you're nervous at all, but this can be nerve-wracking for some folks. So I'm very grateful for you being here. Good job. And if you want to follow up and send this to me by email, we can talk more about it and we'll define some more specifics for you. Okay. My gift to you for being willing to be a guinea pig on our show today. All right. Next up, Melanie.
Hi.
Hello, Melanie. I know that you have quite a few pictures here. So I'm going to start by sharing, I think, yeah, we'll do this one. So take me through what your product is. And if you don't mind, tell me quickly, I'm starting to realize I overcommitted, what it was, what success or challenges you've had, what other feedback you've gotten from it, if any, and what do you think is standing in the way of that success with your sell sheet now? Okay.
Sure. Thank you. My product is the pie cradle, which is a special piece of bakeware designed to function as a steel envelope for a pie pan. And for my sell sheet, I focused on its use for disposable pie pans, and it has three particular benefits. The first one is it bakes a more even pie and bakes a more even pie crust. And secondly, it's a lot easier to handle a pie pan as you're bringing it in and out of the oven, as opposed to simply having it on a baking sheet. And third, there's a nifty, this is a virtual prototype of the plastic cover, so you can use it to transport the pie. And so far, I have submitted it to one company, Lifetime, and I got immediate positive feedback, and it was run up the flagpole, and not a lot of activity happened after that. So the product scout did make himself available to talk to me, but I haven't had a chance to touch base with him to get any specific feedback. I did attach some photos of a prototype because I thought with this product, it would be good to show proof of concept. And so I wanted to compare a prototype to simply using a baking sheet. And instead of a video, I just kind of attached these photos ad hoc. And so it may not have been the most professional way to present this information, but I think I got a little too excited because I had done this test and I was like, oh my gosh, it works. Let me throw these photos in. And then I think I got ahead of myself because it wasn't the most professional way to show the results, and or maybe a little bit too much. So that's kind of where I am with the product and the sell sheet.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to switch to our slides here so that I can make notes with you. I love the extra pictures that you added. I will say that when I first looked at this, I wasn't sure what the invention was. I was a little confused. Was it just this?
Okay.
I don't really understand how this piece right here. Sorry, let's go up here. I understood that this was the invention,
Right.
but it's just that, and I couldn't figure out what this piece was. And does this
Okay.
come with it? Go ahead.
Yeah, the first thing is a pie crust shield for baking the pie. That goes in place, and so it won't rattle around. So if you bake a pie, sometimes you cut foil to cover the crust so it won't burn. And so it's kind of a one-piece pie crust shield. And then the plastic cover is a cover that can go on it if you want to transport the pie in the pie cradle, if that makes sense.
So what is this part right here?
That is a pie crust shield. So typically there are different shields, and that's a bad view of it. If you looked at it, it's like a little circle that's been cut out that just covers the edges of the pie crust and prevents those little crinkle edges from burning. And so there are different pie crust shields on the market. I just thought it would be nifty to have one that sort of fit instantly on top of the pie cradle when you're baking the pie.
Okay. So when you envision this in the store, do you see it's being sold as this whole package then with the pie tin and everything?
That was my idea.
Okay, great. And your images, and I could see why you get excited. I don't blame you. They make sense. And that then really helped tie up the story for me. So if I understand this right, then we're looking at the major benefits. The three major benefits of using it are that you get, it won't slip when you're carrying it around.
Yeah.
It doesn't burn when you use it. So you get a better result with your pie, and you get a more even cook throughout the pie when you use it. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Am I missing anything that you invented it for? Or are those the primary benefits?
Those are the primary benefits.
Okay, great. So we just want to get that conveyed here. So I would use these images to help make, and you don't have to use all of these. Fitting in the oven probably isn't as important because, like you said, it's not a primary benefit. But certainly showing how it gets carried. I think the final product with this exploded view is good if it's a lot smaller and just kind of down here.
Okay.
Or if you show it here, as long as underneath it, then you've got maybe like a little band, like a photo strip of pictures right here.
Okay. Oh, that's a great idea.
Right.
Okay.
So if you took these two and moved it up here, so I knew this is the final product and this is the exploded view of the final product. And then underneath you've got the film strip of this one and then these two, right?
Okay.
With the before and after top, and maybe you could do one above the other. Right. So the before, after, before, after, before, after.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's all befores and then all afters, unless it looks better another way.
Okay.
Just the point here is that there's logic, and even for the most right-brained person, that their flow of thinking is still going to read left to right, top to bottom, right? So make it as easy for them to fall into the story with how this is better than all the other options out there. I think those images are going to make a huge difference for starters. Then with regard to your bullets, if the film strips are doing their job, you could right underneath it, doesn't burn. And actually in terms of selling skills and sales words, you're better off using positive than negatives.
Okay.
So, better bake. I don't know if it's that important with this, to be honest. You could test it a few different ways, but the point is that the first picture shows the before and after of carrying it. So it's that much easier. And then underneath it would say, never slip again or never drop a pie again kind of thing.
Yeah.
My mother, I saw this, and my mother had dropped a $50 worth of ingredients in a cheesecake while I was in Ecuador in October. And she was like crying, and I walked in and just started laughing. She said, "It's not funny." And I felt so bad because I wasn't laughing at her. It was
It
funny.
happens.
So it happens, folks. I know this is a problem, and I don't bake, clearly, or I wouldn't have to ask the questions that I'm asking you. So your before and after of won't slip or never drop a pie again. Then your before and after of perfect golden brown every time. And then maybe your third one is, what was that third benefit?
Just a
even cook.
cover for transport.
Oh, okay. I thought it was even cooked. So,
even cooked. Yeah, definitely. I think even cooked is a bigger benefit than being able to transport it.
So you get it. And just pick the 2 or 3 top. You don't want to go too far over the edge with this. You can add, if you feel like there's these additional benefits that are kind of one-offs, then you can include those still here in your bullets. But make sure you hyper focus on what's most meaningful here. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
And then in addition to those bullets below that, if you do have prototypes, you mentioned that it could be done with, these can be cooked with just the typical tin pans stuck in your device, the pie cradle, or it could be done with glass.
Yeah.
So I would mention that in a bullet can be, it works with tin and glass, tin, glass, ceramic, or all materials, whatever the right language is.
Okay, great.
Right. To expand on that. And of course, if you have any prototypes available or anything like that, you know, the rest of it. The rest of it's pretty self-explanatory. How are we doing? How does that, what do you think about that so far?
That's great. I didn't know that the pictures could be integrated into just the primary cell sheet, that they would be that helpful. I just kind of thought of that being incidental, the proof of concept. So that's really interesting to me. And
I'm glad that you asked.
What you're saying.
Yeah. The logic is that when people are making a buying decision, this is human nature. When we make a buying decision, first we scan for the benefits that we're looking for. What's going to do the task that I'm hiring the product to do? If it's a hammer or a sledgehammer, right? But now let's say I'm knocking a wall down. So it's a sledgehammer, and I'm looking at 5 different sledgehammers to choose from. And they all say that they'll knock down my wall. The second decision is based on price. So in the case of images, what we're looking at is, will this get the job done? I'm sorry. Let me add one more piece to that. Will this get the job done? Do I believe it will get the job done? Mm-hmm. So we get our real reason to believe in there. And then, can I afford it? And companies decisions are made by humans, not companies. So a human still needs to answer those same questions, not just for their customer, but for their company. Can we make this at an affordable cost that it will ultimately be sold at an affordable price for who we know our customers to be? Or for customers that we believe we can go get that we don't currently have is okay too. But that's the story that we have to convey. And that's why these images give me a reason to believe that it gets the job done. When I see it in there all beautiful and you're holding it, that to me is like, that's lovely. It's elegant. It's sexy. It looks like it's in stores already. It's finished. It's beautiful. So you take my guesswork out of whether or not stuff won't slide very quickly by looking at that picture when you compare those two and contrast them. So you see why those pictures are helpful in telling the story.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. We do have some questions that are coming in here, and I'd love to get to them, but I want to also get through this third one, and then we'll open it up. Melanie, thank you so much. I'm going to have you back on in just a minute in case you need to help me answer any questions from our audience. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our next brave inventor is Mark Peterson. Hello, Mark. Thank you.
Hello, how are you?
Being here. All right, so let's go up here and we'll switch to your cell sheets. Now you sent 2 ahead. I understand that you had a little bit of an epiphany and you started making some changes. So we'll look at both and compare and contrast them and see if there's any way to tighten it up a little bit more. And let's start with you just walking me through it, or pitch me on it if you're comfortable doing that.
Okay, I'll just kind of give you the background here. For one, the cell sheet on the right is the one that I initially sent out about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And to the product itself, obviously cornhole is becoming more popular around the country. There's even, shows, tournaments on ESPN. When I started playing a game, these boards are 2 foot by 4 foot and they're real heavy. And we needed somebody to have a truck or SUV to haul them to wherever we were going, to the beach or the party or wherever. So my intent was to come up with a game that's the 2 foot by 4 foot, nice and heavy and very strong and rigid, but is more transportable one way or another. I went through numerous prototypes and designs and came up with this one where the board's actually two different pieces. And the top, what you fold in the leg, take it apart, fold in the leg, it nests inside the bottom one, as you can see the carrying case. And then that metal bracket is the key to keeping this thing fully rigid and play like a one-piece board like they use in the tournaments. I mean, there's there's 3-foot boards that are lightweight, and it's the same basic game, but it's a little bit different experience, especially for people that really like it. So again, that's my intent for the product. And then the sell sheet itself, where I show the main shot of it and give some benefits. It makes it more portable and easier to carry. And then the kind of before and after, so to speak, of the board on the left with the girl standing next to it, and it's huge, and then it won't fit in the back of a trunk. And then the same girl carrying mine, looking like it's easy peasy in a briefcase, and it fits easily in the trunk. And then I've got all some of the detail down at the bottom. So I'll sent that out. There's, I don't know, sent it maybe 20 companies. There's 2, 3, 4, maybe the huge sporting goods people. There's a couple in between middle-sized companies and a lot of smaller companies. And I got some feedback here and there. Some of the smaller guys are kind of interested, but not a good time for them. The wood prices going up. Anyway, one of the feedback I did get was I have overlooked that I'm not showing that it's really strong. I took it for granted. That was my intent. It's got the metal bracket. It is strong. So that was the one thing I got back from the feedback directly from the guys I contacted. And then the more I thought about it is that, I mean, I'm showing a lot of detail there that I don't necessarily think is needed, because I'm sending it to people that know the game and know it, and they're going to build it how they want to build it. I mean, with the hardware and that type of stuff. So I really thought I needed to concentrate on the main, 3 benefits with any little bit of supporting information. And then on top of that, I was thinking along these lines, and I actually talked to another inventor coach, and really I think I should show some videos of sort of like shown on or sold on TV, where you show the before and after, like these photos, but make them in videos, because it'll be more obvious to somebody. So thus my sell sheet on the left, where I'm showing a little bit larger pictures of the 5 different things before and after, and me standing on it, and the pictures in the trunk, not in the trunk, kind of emphasizing, giving a little detail of the metal brace, and a couple of details below of, not needing tools and easy to put together, and everything's inside. And then up top, of course, the statement itself, to try to, just state the 3 basic benefits right there up front, instead of piecing it together with little bullets like on the first sell sheet.
Okay, so the progression was you did this one first, and then you tried to improve it based on the feedback and what you were learning from those conversations, which, by the way, good for you, because that's what we do. We pivot, we iterate, we experiment, we learn, we change, whatever it is that we need to do to solve the problems that we face. We don't stop solving problems when the invention's done. That's for sure.
I thought I had a perfect sell sheet.
Yeah. Well, I think it's somewhere in between these two, is my opinion. I understand why you wanted to get rid of all of these bullets and that there were too many words. But at the end of the day, the reality is that they're pretty much going to fall into the same category in terms of results. Neither one of them has the clear call to action. So I would definitely encourage you to add "now available for license" somewhere on this document, whichever art formula you choose to go with.
Yep.
I like them both, the folded up version along with the open version. I think that the one on the right here does a better job of explaining to me very quickly, just even at a glance, because of the words. And then the new briefcase design obviously is driving that home. I know what the invention is very quickly. You have patent pending. May I ask, is it the ability to fold, or is it types of brackets? What is it about this that's novel?
I've got, I think, about 5 claims, but essentially it's that the one side, one end nests inside the other, and I have the metal bracket to provide this, or I have a device to, whether it's a bracket or something else, to make it good and rigid. There's a couple other minor claims on there. I have a little built-in scoreboard on the back, and right now I can't recall the other claim, but I have filed my non-provisional already. I sent this out when I had my provisional, and the year has passed, so I filed the full utility non-provisional.
Utility, yeah, the non-provisional. Okay. You can add, and it doesn't matter which of these two cell sheets, adding the language, for example, ultra strong here does the same, holds up to 180 pounds right underneath it, does the same thing of overcoming that objection. So you don't have to worry about adding another picture if that becomes too busy for you. I'm just going to give you a lot of options here.
Yep.
If you do everything I'm saying, then it'll be too much, right? I'm going to give you a lot of different options.
Sure.
And stimulate your thoughts. Interesting. When I saw this at first, I had to make the assumption that it wasn't fitting in the back because the fact that it's black looked like the same thing, just hanging out a little bit. So it doesn't
not
really,
obvious. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if there's
either
a
better picture and or the video. And that's why I want the video to help to show the young lady trying to get this big thing up and get it down in the trunk.
Right.
And then she gets it in there and it's still poking out.
And I think another way to do that potentially is, because remember, a picture's worth 1,000 words. If you were to eliminate these two pictures and just have the after picture, then you had the dimensions written up here around the product, just what the dimensions are. And next to it, it could say fits easy transport, fits in most, easy transport, drop it in your trunk and go kind of thing.
Gotcha.
You've told the same story, but it's more compelling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not requiring me to figure anything out. You're telling me the story. I don't have to fill in the gaps.
Good point.
And you have a ton of space here. And I really like how clean this is. Honestly, when I looked at this one, I got too much coming at me at one time. Okay. So it's almost like overcompensating for what we were missing over here. And in fact, if you just were to get rid of this bullet feature list, mm-hmm. and really fine tune this benefit list,
yes.
because you can bring some of these features up here around the image itself, size, weight, etc.
Yep.
And I didn't know if weight would make a difference, if weight would be meaningful or matter, but the fact that it is light and easy, it's pretty obvious because she's just carrying it.
Actually, it's not light.
Okay.
Because it's the full. I mean, it's like a full tournament board, just 2 halves, and the intent is for it to be heavy so that it get a solid play. Because I came up with some prototypes that were lightweight, and even that little bag would hit on them, and they tend to want to kind of bounce. You could see the whole platform not be steady. So thus,
right.
It's not lightweight, but it is much easier to carry. So.
Are there any other products out there that fold in half at all?
There's one that folds in half, it folds, it's aluminum. And that was actually a feedback I got from one guy. There's product already out there. And he kind of shut down after that, to listen to the benefits of mine, that it's rigid, it's a solid play, like a tournament board, not a lightweight aluminum board. Okay,
so tournament board is obviously important. So we want that up here. So underneath it, maybe tournament size or whatever that right word is. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a play like a tournament board in the left one, or something. Yeah, I mean, the sizes is kind of well known. It's just that it's solid, sturdy, heavy.
Okay, so industry standard.
Excuse me?
Meets industry standards.
Okay. That's why I just plays like a tournament board.
Plays like a tournament board. Yeah. Okay. So you could, as long as you put those together.
That's kind of the industry standard is tournament boards that have specified dimensions and things like that are listed everywhere.
So I would give you back this real estate, the carrying case assembly and the play configuration text. You can take that off and instead maybe just a couple small bullets, like a 8 or 9 point, smaller, maybe 10 if you can get it in there. And I think you can because I'm pointing on the computer instead of up here on the screen. I just realized that. Okay. So get rid of this carrying case and this play configuration. And then underneath it, you do 2 or 3 bullets that explains, and you could do 2 or 3 bullets right next to this. So final dimensions, or you could put the dimensions here, final dimensions, final weight. And then under here, tournament quality experience from a completely portable board. I loved these bullets that you had, regulation size and truly portable, but I'd split them up because they're different issues. And I would make sure that this is where your value proposition, and I assume that's what you're trying to do here with your value prop. Since it's at the top and it's what's leading in, what I want to know here first and foremost is going to then be demonstrated by everything else. And that is that it is a regulation size, that it is completely portable. So these are separate bullets, right?
Yep.
And that it is sturdy. So the size, the strength, and the compactability are your three main benefits. That's what I want to see here.
Well, okay. Well, the size of the carrying case, yes.
Yeah, well, the size before and after. So,
Well, I mean, the overall size is going to be the same as all the rest of them when it's folded out and play. But
yeah, compact. Well, but the way you say a benefit. So if the three are that it's compact or it's foldable is the feature, but the benefit is that compact, easy to store under bed or travel in your car. That's what's the one of them. Another one, and I don't know what order these are in. The second would be folds out to regulation size board or opens to regulation size or just regulation size open. That's simple.
Yep.
And then the third one is the stability, how sturdy it is, and holds up to 130 pounds.
At least 270 pounds per the picture there with me in it.
Right. There you go. Holds up to 200 pounds, whatever you feel comfortable saying. And to really sweeten those benefits up, this is where these are your secret ingredients. This is your secret sauce. This is what you're licensing, is the fact that it does these three things. So they're your main benefits, but we want to embellish them. We want them to be overt. So using words from like the value pyramid, which by the way, folks, I just added how you can contact me if you'd like to book a free call with me to the bottom of our screen here. You can go to theinventionaccelerator.com and book a free call, but I'm going to change that instead to youtube.com/icaninvent, because if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll be able to, that was the wrong one. You'll be able to youtube.com/icaninvent. You can get and just search my channel for sell sheet, and you'll find the video and the sell sheet that I'm demonstrating from today for you to download for free, so you can walk through this with your own products. Okay. But if your benefit here, I keep doing it on the wrong screen. If your benefits here are those three major benefits, and while you're on my YouTube channel, check out how the difference between the last few videos have been about overt benefits and meaningful differences. To take a benefit and turn it into an overt benefit, which you usually only do with your one major primary benefit, possibly two, you're going to think about the words that help embellish it, not lie, not exaggerate, but embellish what really matters about it.
Put more feeling behind the statements. Yep.
Right. And and often that can be done with your reason to believe, because if you give me an overt benefit that says, holds or is strong, super strong, ultra strong, strongest one on the market, that's one thing. But if you say will hold up to 130 pounds or 180 pounds, 200, whatever, now it's an overt benefit. That's the difference between just saying it's strong and being more specific, deliberate, and blunt about what that benefit is. So that's what we would want to lead with here. Just focus on that. It doesn't have to be a cure for cancer. That's not the point. I talk about all of this in great detail, but when you actually start to put to practice what we're talking about today, these are little simple steps that you can take to make dramatic changes and get much better results from companies, because now a company can look at this quickly and know exactly what it is, how it's different from the competition and better from the competition, so that I want to learn more and keep talking to you about it. So I was going to write notes, but it was taking too long to do that. Am I missing anything here that you wanted to talk about specifically, Mark, on this, or do you think we got it covered?
I mean, in general, I think we got it covered, but I mean, you would agree that having some videos would be appropriate too, though, right? The link to the video.
Possibly. And here's how you answer that question for yourself. Is there something that you haven't said in the sheet that can only be done with a video, but is necessary for the company to make a decision? Because if you can get it done with a sell sheet and have a by the way video, that's great. But if you're depending on that video to support what you're saying in the sell sheet, this is the same challenge that Tomas was having with his. If you depend on that, you run the risk of someone not watching it.
My intent was still, I mean, to show the right pictures to, pictures worth 1,000 words, but a video is probably worth, 1,000,000 words or whatever. And again, you mentioned something about wasn't sure one of those pictures. And so,
yep.
Which it might just be getting pictures at a better angle or something, but still it was my tip for a video was just to make it a quick and easy. And if they're realizing this and then they see it like a sold on TV video, where they struggle with one thing
right.
and then they get the fix, that it just would be
good
supporting in that. I would hope they wouldn't need to see it, but it'd be something just that they would, take them over the top if they went that far. So again, hopefully it's not needed, but again, the pictures, I don't know that do enough justice.
If we do this again, I'll definitely do it with only 2 inventors next time because we're running out of time here, Mark. So I'm sorry, but I do want to say, and I didn't get to any questions from our audience. I'll stick around and hang out and answer them if you all want to stick around with me. When something as simple as the measurements on here that demonstrate how big it is tells me much more quickly. And while it's important, it's not something that you need a video to explain.
Sure.
So, final measurements or compact measurements, and then next to it, easy carry, store, and transport. I have the measurements. I can do the math in my head. It's good enough. I have the reason to believe because the actual measurements tell me that it will fit in my trunk or anywhere else, under the bed, behind the door, in the closet, etc. Yeah. So the temptation here is, because you're right, a picture tells 1,000 words. The temptation is to add a whole bunch of pictures to tell the whole story. But in that case, you might as well just do a video and not a sell sheet at all. Right?
Yep.
So let's definitely get that. I like the white space. It's cleaner and I see the product faster here. This is just getting a little too busy for me. And you're going to open up all of this real estate down here because you finally can, with cleaning this up, if you need to do any extra pictures. But I think your message over here just moves to right here. So if you use this formula, got rid of this gray box and brought the messaging over here that's missing over here, I think you're going to be a lot more happy with the results.
Yep, makes sense.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to bring everybody on here for a minute. I'm going to stop sharing that. And I want to thank all 3 of you for being here, Melanie, Tomas, Mark, and jump into some questions here real quick and see if there's anything that, there's only a few, so maybe we can get through these. Gabriel asked, pop that right up here. I'm trying to cut back on startup costs, so I'm going to wait until I get my first order before I get a product liability insurance. Is that good or bad decision? You don't need product liability insurance, Gabriel, if you're licensing at all. You don't need it. And if you're working with a company that says you do, then they're too small. You need to move on to a better company because you're not going to make a living with them. So if you're going to venture, then you need it, and you don't need it until you start calling on stores. There we go. Same question. Michael is asking, is this recorded? Yes, Michael, it is recorded for future use. You can come back to the same place, click on the same link that got you here for the live show, and it'll be here. Or you can go to youtube.com/InvenTank, INVENTANK, and it will be recorded there as well. We're recording live on YouTube right now, getting some feedback. Does it strengthen the muscles to the point, so the patient can get back on their feet? And Tomas, I'm sure that's for you.
Yes, actually, it's
Uh-oh. Oh, Wendy, I hope you got the answer to that question. I'm having trouble hearing him right now, but I believe the answer is yes, based on what we learned, and it may have even been answered after you asked the question when we continue to talk about it. Walk while sitting. Yes, Michael. I am looking for any other questions. All right. So Mark, Melanie, and Tomas, any last questions or thoughts from you before we move on? I want to make sure that I have answered questions for you, and we can always follow up after this program as well.
I think I'm good. I appreciate the insight and the help.
Okay. A little stressful, but a little fun. I hope you had fun. I had a lot of fun as I was looking through. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so much fun. But I'm such a kid in a candy store when it comes to this. I love all of your ideas. I love the problem that they solve. And I think that just a little bit of tweaking can help you make a dramatic difference in your overall success as you're pitching. Make sure you get in front of the right company and the right people at those companies with the right story. And thank you, everybody, for joining me today. I'm sorry that brings us to the end of our program. But as I mentioned before, if you missed any part of this or would like to just go back and review for any reason, you can catch the replay on any major podcasting platform. Or if you prefer to watch the video, I recommend you go to InvenTank, youtube.com/InvenTank, and check out those videos there. And don't forget, if you'd like to schedule a free call with me, you can book that by going to theinventionaccelerator.com. Until next week, thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.